Hi there, and welcome everybody that's watching or listening to us. You're joined by Ben and Ross today on the Wednesday Bulletin. This is Ibrox. How are you doing today, Ben? Especially after what's been quite a dour day yesterday. You take yourself off mute, Ben.
That was a good start. I said the Champions League is over, so I'm feeling better about that, just to get over and done with.
And Ross, I feel like I already know the answer to this because I've asked you a few times in the last few pods, but how are you getting on?
Yeah, I'm not bad, mate. I'm pretty much the same as Ben. I'm just glad that that's over last night, and yeah, we obviously had a good discussion on it last night. So I feel like I've vented my kind of frustrations. I can maybe take a better look back at the campaign now with maybe a wee bit less emotion involved. So yeah, overall, I'm good.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Look, so today, as always, we've got quite a packed show to talk about. It's never dull in the wonderful world of Rangers Football Club. But we will briefly discuss the Ajax game. I know you guys have heard Ross and I already talking about it, but I'll be keen to get some of Ben's thoughts on that. Then we'll check that out. There's a few people yesterday in the chat that wanted to discuss Gio and Tav's post-match comments. We didn't get to see it yesterday because we went live as soon as we all were in the house. So now we've all had a wee chance to look at those. We'll go and reflect upon those. We'll discuss the Champions League as a whole. Would you want Rangers in the Champions League next season? And a wee look ahead until the sort of run until the January, and I'll just get the guys' thoughts on what they think the club should do as a whole until then. But as everybody knows, I like a wee on this day. It's quite a random one today. I know I had a chat with the two of you before we came on, and I think the pair of you couldn't really remember this game, so I'll talk about this one for a wee bit because I remember this game really vividly for some reason. And on this day, it was 2006 Rangers defeated Maccabi Haifa 2-0 at Ibrox, and which made us the first Scottish club to qualify for the UEFA Cup group stages. Remember that when we used to qualify from group stages, guys? Novo and Charlie Adam got on the score sheet for Rangers. Normally I would ask your guys' memories of this game, but from what it was a weird game that I seem to remember there was like a pitch invader at some point. I don't know if anybody can jump in the comments and confirm that, but before it was kind of trendy down in Everton with that guy tying his with a sort of, I don't know what you call it, the necktie thing on the post. I'm sure that happened at this game. There was a protest, but yeah, it was a really good goal from Nacho Novo, and arguably one of the only successes that Paul Gwen had. But Ben, I'll come to you on this. Do you think that Rangers are maybe missing a guy in the team at the moment, like Nacho Novo?
Yeah. I was just thinking as you were saying that. I was thinking, obviously talented player to a certain level, but I think we're missing the passion. I think certainly this Champions League campaign has showed maybe that desire is questionable. I don't think in all the players, but in some. And I just think Novo got it, what it meant. And yeah, I think we could do a dose of that.
And Ross, that's an interesting point Ben's made there. Do you think there are enough guys in the current Rangers squad that get it, so to speak?
It's difficult right now to really say yes because of the way that the team's been playing this season. I'd like to think so. I think James Tavernier's been here a long time now. Same with Connor Goldson. I'd like to think John Lundstrom's in there as well. They're the kind of three guys you see Van Bronckhorst go to each game. And then obviously you've got guys like Alan McGregor and Stephen Davis and Scott Arfield still there. So I'm tempted to say yes. I'm tempted to say yes on that, but the evidence has shown that maybe I'm wrong. But, the players that we have, the experience that we have in that changing room, yeah, I would be expecting more, like Ben said there, passion in these games, just a bit of fight and desire. And obviously we're going to go on to that, but the comments from Tavernier last night maybe say the opposite.
Yeah, definitely something we'll come to later on in the podcast, Ross. But Ben, just because people have heard Ross and I's thoughts already on it, I'm really keen to get another view on how you felt Rangers performed in the defeat to Ajax last night at home to Ibrox. I just felt at times we were flat, we were outclassed. Ajax never got out of second gear. All the normal phrases that you can use for a game like this. How did you see the game overall, and just generally how disappointed were you in it?
Yeah, I think it's a big opportunity. Missed. I know obviously qualification and all that was out the window. But I actually had a migraine last night, so didn't see the game until today. And people are probably wondering why I wanted another migraine by watching that today. But yeah, I felt we were too passive right from the off. I don't know. I don't blame the manager in terms of the selection, because as you guys said, there wasn't a lot. Maybe he could have changed Morelos, played him up front, but there wasn't a lot of options for the 11. But I suppose when you look at our two starting centre midfielders, a combined age of 72, I mean, are they going to be in the face? Are they going to be, playing at such a high tempo? I understand there's injuries and there's mitigating factors for that, but it makes me think that the problems at the club are greater than just the 11 that we put on the field. It's going into a Champions League campaign with the squad that we did, was asking for trouble, a couple of injuries, and we're left with this. But yeah, I felt like we paid far too much respect. As good a team as Ajax are, we sat off them. We let them play. What we did last season, so well against real good teams, against Dortmund, against Leipzig, was that fast start, that in your face, that not letting the team settle once it come to Ibrox. I thought the atmosphere was really good from the start as well, and that early goal just kind of killed the spirit. And particularly, I understand, again, I'll say it again about the injuries, it is a mitigating factor, but the fact that Ajax basically had nothing to play for either, and they have a big game coming at the weekend, it was a chance for us to go out there and show what it meant, show that yes, we've underperformed in this campaign, but here's our opportunity. It's a home game against a team with nothing to play for. Let's go out, let's get a result.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. It's something that we certainly commented on yesterday about it was a nothing game. I think we said that several times, Ross, that the 5 goals we would have got through to the Europa League, but that was totally unrealistic. But it was a chance to just claw back a bit of pride, wasn't it, for the supporters? And I think, again, having a bit more time to disassociate myself from the game, that was the thing I was most disappointed about last night. But look, the next thing we'll come on to talk about, Ross, and I'm keen to get your thoughts on this especially, is I think it was Curry Muncher in the chat last night. I was keen to get our views on Gio and Tav's post-match comments yesterday. There's a couple of things I'll take from the Rangers captain's post-match on BT. He basically offered an apology to all supporters, saying it wasn't good enough in the Champions League. I don't think that really needs to be said, but it was more when he said in the first half we could have fought a wee bit more hunger. He was about to say something and he cut himself off, and I think the journalist that was interviewing him was quite surprised at his candidness when he came out, and also Gio come out and said, again, I felt it was quite a cliched interview in terms of he talked about the Dutch FA giving Ajax time off and they had more time to rest and recuperate. I mean, what's your thoughts on those comments, Ross? And are you disappointed in them, or do you just think that it's refreshing to see a player and a manager potentially being as open and frank as they were?
Regarding the comments, I'm not too surprised by Van Bronckhorst's comments, because we've seen similar through this Champions League campaign. There's been wee comments he's made that people don't really have an understanding of, saying Ajax had 6 days off. I mean, does it really mean much, to be honest? I mean, we've seen this team, do back-to-back extra times last year and give it everything they had. And if they had walked off that pitch in the semi-final and lost that game, the fans would have clapped them off, because you seen the energy and desire that day. So in terms of Van Bronckhorst, is he trying to use it as an excuse? I'm not sure, but it comes across that way. I know he was quite prickly with the journalist after that and trying to say, you asked me that question. I'm not trying to use it as an excuse, but listen, you've said it, and once it's out there, people are going to take it that way. So Van Bronckhorst, I'm not really too surprised by his comments. Taverniers were, I think I put it in the chat late last night after I'd seen those comments. They were shocking to me, because I can understand this Rangers side suffering from the technical point of view, and I can see them suffering in terms of the physicality point of view, because these teams, it's not just about the technical quality, they're all top level athletes. So you can look a yard off sometimes, but to hear your captain come out and say that, we lacked fight, and I think it was it Hungary said, and he wanted to see a wee bit more of that in the first half, that worries me. I would expect the team to be roaring into this game. Listen, I understand they probably do feel a wee bit sorry for themselves right now. They've had a lot of injuries. They've not had a great run of results. Obviously, Aberdeen at the weekend was, an exception to that, but they haven't been playing great. And I can imagine confidence is low in this team when it comes to Champions League fixtures. But the one thing you expect as a fan, especially at Ibrox, is for the team to give everything. And most fans will recognise the quality. When you're at Ibrox and you see it in the flesh, you can see how good these sides are. It's not going to be easy for us. We were always going to struggle in this group. And personally, I always felt we didn't have a chance of qualifying. But that's just me being realistic. I still want my team to give everything they've got. And if they gave everything they had, I would have stood up last night and I would have clapped them off the park, and I think everyone would have. But yeah, to hear your captain say that in an interview right after the game, maybe I'll give him, it's in the heat of the moment, he's a wee bit maybe emotional and he's not really thinking it through, then okay, I can maybe let it go. But yeah, that was disappointing to hear from Tavernier, and I don't want to hear that again. That's a lesson, and he's had a few comments in the past in his Rangers career, so yeah, don't want to hear that again. That's the one thing we want as fans. We just want a wee bit of desire and a wee bit of fight. So yeah, poor from Tavernier there.
Yeah, I think Ross has touched on a few excellent points here, Ben, especially with the standards. I mean, for me, it's effort is the bare minimum that we should expect from a Rangers team, regardless of the opposition that we're playing. Are you disappointed that I wouldn't maybe quite bracket this in the same category as the Goldson interview post-match, because I remember people going bonkers at that, and quite rightly so. But do you think it's appropriate for a Rangers captain to say things like this? And were you surprised as well by just how open he was?
Yeah, I mean, how naive he was shocked me. I love Tav, but that interview was pathetic, to be honest. I think what Ross said there is important. I agree. When I saw that group being drawn, I expected us to finish fourth, because those are three good teams at the end of the day. But effort for Rangers it's the bare minimum for any football team, for that matter. You expect you're paying your money. You expect to go out there and see 11 players that are trying their absolute best no matter what. And for him, one, to be the captain, be the leader on the field, and realize that that's not there, and not, I don't remember seeing him getting about players and trying to change that during the first half. To even if you do think that, is that a good idea to put that out, on to the public, for rivals to see? Oh, the Rangers players, weren't bothered, weren't trying, for our fans to see. What can be gained from saying that? I don't want to see a Rangers captain apologising to us. If we go out there and we are beaten by better players, then he's no reason to apologise to us. And for me, hunger, desire, drive aren't things that you're going to apologise for, because that's unforgivable to not be given that. That's not something that you can just go, oh, I made a mistake. That's a choice in a way. Why did the players not want to go 100% to fight for those fans that have been paying extortionate ticket prices to watch this group and have been given nothing back for it? It's shameful, to be honest with you. It's very, very disappointing from a Rangers captain, or from any player. And then just quickly on Gio, I mean, that excuse of them having had their game postponed at the weekend is just laughable, quite frankly. I mean, it's a man clutching at straws. Had we been competitive and in the group or whatever, and not lost our previous 5 by heavy scorelines for the most part, you could maybe say, oh, there you go, there's a reason why. But when you've already lost your previous 5, you're already out, you can't qualify for the Europa League. I don't think that's a valid excuse, and I don't see what he gains from that, apart from it just looks pathetic, really.
Yeah, it was just fluff, wasn't it? There was no real substance to it. It's really difficult. I'm not sure what was expecting them to say, but to use that as an excuse, and as you said, Ross, he wasn't using it as an excuse, and he did point that out. But if you're not using it as an excuse, you don't mention it. It's like if you don't want to be, don't think about pink elephants, and the first thing you're thinking about is pink elephants, and it's kind of going down that road. But Ross, I'm going to stick to you in terms of post-match pressers here. I don't know if you saw it. It was doing the rounds in a lot of social media today. Was the post-match presser against PSV away over in Eindhoven where we qualified, and just if you look at Gio, the body language, just the language that he's using. He says here, when he was asked by Emma Dodds about qualifying for the Champions League, he said, of course it will impact us as we want to compete with the best teams in Europe. And I've had good conversations about how we spend the money, with obviously alluding to the board. And then literally fast forward 3 weeks later against Ajax, and he's come out with, we're not able to compete at this level. That I don't know how that such a contrast has happened in 3 weeks basically. Do you think that the comments after the Ajax game were perhaps a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy? And I know obviously you don't know the inner workings of Rangers Football Club, but do you feel that Gio has been let down by the board here? Because it certainly appears that there were discussions taking place about investment in the squad.
I think you've got to look at it both ways. I think you can say that the board have definitely had a hand in this Champions League performance, because we've not been properly equipped to go into this group stage. We've not, even with our fully fit 11, I do believe that we would compete more, but I still think we would finish bottom of the group, to be honest. I just don't think we have enough in that squad to compete. And maybe it's unrealistic to think that, after qualification, we would have been able to sign a few players that would have taken us there. But at least if the board had maybe put their hand in their pocket and recruited players that we all recognise that squad needs, again, fans would lay off the manager probably. I'm sorry, that's incorrect. They would probably have a go more at the manager about his performances, but they would lay off the board. I think both are getting it now because of that. So, yeah, I watched back that interview this morning after the PSV game, and I think you could tell by Van Bronckhorst's body language, and he was very jovial during that interview. I think he believed that there was going to be funds available for him. Did he think that he was going to be able to go and spend 20, 30 million? No, it's unrealistic. But I think he felt that he could maybe go into the market and bring a few players in that would help him, maybe implement his style on this team, which I still don't think he's been able to do. So, yeah, I think you can tell he's probably got the bad news a couple of days after that interview that it's just not going to happen. We don't have the funds available to be able to go into the market. I think we've seen a couple of links with, was it Nicolas Raskin from Belgium? But I remember reading that, Glenn Kamara would have to move for that deal to happen. So it's all based on funds coming in. So we clearly just didn't have the funds available. And okay, that's fine. But you have to be more transparent as a board of why. I keep hearing that, it's just a myth that we received that 40 million. We don't have that. He said that last night again. It's like, okay, but we definitely did make a lot of money in that Europa League run last year. We've started the player trading model now. We made around 19 million this summer with Bassi, 8 million in Aribo. We sold Patterson in January for 12 million. There must be money going out of the club that we're not aware of. I've read all the articles explaining about Edmiston House and all the money they've had to put into that, but it's just, there's something not right. And I think as fans, we just want to have a better understanding of that. So have the boards had a hand in all of this? Yes. And they've definitely not helped Van Bronckhorst at all. So I can understand that kind of contrast between his two interviews. But it's not a great look for him, is it? Because he comes out and he seems really positive that we're going to have funds and we're going to go for it. And then every other, subsequent interview, it's been, that's fantasy. It's not available. So it's difficult for me, to be honest. It's difficult because I have problems with both the board and the manager. So it's tough to separate them on this one. They both have to take blame.
Yeah, completely agree with you on that one, and that tees me up quite nicely for my next question, because you've covered the board aspect. Ben, I'm going to come to you in terms of the word that keeps coming up in these Champions League games in particular was intensity, lack of intensity, lack of drive, lack of ambition. It clearly works for Rangers. It was demonstrated, and I'm by no means comparing Ajax to Aberdeen, other than that they both start with the same letter. But it worked against Aberdeen at the weekend, the intensity in the press. Where does this come from? Like, this is a question that I've struggled to answer myself. Like, when you're paying a big fee for a player, do you expect that mentality and that level of intensity? And it's just because we can't compete at that level in terms of going out and spend, I was going to say 20, I don't even think we could go out and spend £10 million on a player at the moment, but where does that come from? Is that the players that have got to look inside themselves for that, or is it the manager that's got to be motivating them for a Champions League match?
Yeah, I think the easy answer is both. However, a manager, yes, should be motivating them. However, when those players are out on the field, it should be in every footballer. It should be in anyone, whether you're playing Sunday League stuff, whether, you should be applying yourself. It should just come naturally to you. You should have that want to win, that attitude. It should be natural. There's no doubt about that. And that's a pride for the supporters, that you're not going to just roll over and, have your bellies tickled and, let a team come and walk all over you. So once the players are out there, that's where it comes down to the captain motivating them on the field. Obviously, the manager, certainly, I'm not making excuses for Gio, because he certainly, it's very hard to do that. But those players should have a bit of pride, no matter who they are, what age they are, how much they've been signed for. I don't think that money should dictate the mentality or the effort that you get. It should be the talent. Then is at that level, is higher. The players should want to win, should want to put in the effort to run into the ground for the fans, for the team, no matter whether they're a free transfer, they're a loan signing, or they're a $5 million player.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. And as an FYI, I think Tillman actually came in for a wee bit of harsh criticism last night in terms of effort. I think it's just his attitude that that just is, I don't know, the way his body is, do you know what I mean? He sort of looks lazy, but he's not. I think he actually worked quite hard last night, and that hopefully we see a wee bit more of that going forward. But Ben, look, I'm keen to stick with you in this one. It's not an easy one, this, but it's just to discuss our Champions League as a whole. Insanely enough, even though we have the worst record in Champions League history, having lost all 6 of our games with a minus 20 goal difference, it's something that we can't shy away from. We have, and I'm trying to take a positive out of this, we still managed to gather the most coefficient points for Scotland. Other than that, are there any positives that you can take out of this Champions League campaign, and would you have done anything differently? And by that, I mean, would you have liked to have seen us being a wee bit more attacking, or would you have liked to have seen us being a wee bit more defensive? It's a tough one. I suppose if I'm clutching at straws to try and think of anything that I would take out of it, money aside, I would say Leon King getting experience at that level can only benefit him. It's thrown into the deep end for him, but he certainly equipped himself as best that he could and did well. And the fact that it's experience for the whole squad. Ahead of hopefully doing it again next season. The only thing I kept hearing about that, and I think Tav touched on it in his interview as well, was about, that we need to learn from this. My only thing is how many of this group are still going to be at the club to be doing it next season is the thing. So what are we gaining as a squad there? But yeah, what would I have done differently? I don't know, because if you are Gio, and again, it sounds like I'm sticking up for him when it's not the popular view at the minute, but he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't, because if he sits back negatively at all times and maybe scrapes a point, people are saying this is Rangers, we need to be going at teams, and then if he does the other and we end up losing 7-1, then they're not happy either. So it is a difficult thing. The squad that we went into,
it just was not equipped for a Champions League. So yeah, I maybe would have been quicker substitution wise within games. I felt like that's one thing where he can certainly improve. But yeah, there's not many more positives that I can think of, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, I think you've given that a good go there, Ben. I'm now going to chuck this out to Ross as well. It's just that it's the same question. Give us your thoughts in the sort of overall Champions League, and other than signing Raskin, Evander and Skov Olsen, what else would you have done differently?
What would I have done differently? Wow, that's a great question. I don't know, but I don't get paid a lot of money to do that. I mean, I could maybe go back and look at each game and maybe think how we could set up differently. I think that first game against Ajax just really set the tone, I think, for this group stage, evidently, because we went on and lost them all. But I thought it was really important for us to start well. I didn't expect us to go over to Amsterdam and get a win, but I just felt it would be a real platform for us to put our stamp in the group, especially with how good we were last year in that Europa League run. And we just came off such a poor result against Celtic at Parkhead, and that was awful. I mean, we came on that night in the post-match reaction, and we couldn't really believe how bad they were that night. Although Ajax were great, but what would I have done different? I'm not sure, because I think Ben makes a good point there, and I said that last night. I don't think we take much from this in terms of the squad, because I don't think a lot of these players will be starting for Rangers next season, based on players coming back from injury, players moving on, and players just getting older. I just don't think that's going to be a squad that we're going to see again. So I can't really take any positive out of it other than the money, to be honest. And I think that might be what we need to just accept as fans for a while. I'm not saying we accept performances like that. Absolutely not. We need to be able to compete at this level and try our best and give everything we've got in terms of fight, desire, hunger, all those buzzwords. But we probably are going to have to accept, if we are in the Champions League, we're probably going to get some doings over the next few years if we keep getting back here. I keep reading this comparison with Club Bruges and how that they've been able to really put their mark in this competition now. Club Bruges have been in the competition for 6-7 years. They've been building towards this point, and they've been getting absolute tankings throughout this, without the group stages. So we have to be realistic. That doesn't mean we can't expect this Rangers team to give everything they've got when they go in the park, and that's fine for me. That's all I want from this team at this level. I'm not expecting us to pull up trees here. We're playing at a level that is difficult to comprehend, I think, sometimes. And when you're in that stadium and you see these players in the flesh, you really realise how good they are. I mean, at 2-0 last night, some of the football Ajax was playing was unbelievable. Like, really, if you try and take your Rangers glasses off and you watch it, it was great to watch. They're pinging the ball about, and it's really difficult to get close. And I think we've had that in a few games. We had that last week over in Italy as well. So, yeah, I mean, as for changing anything, it's a difficult one. I don't know what I would change, but we certainly don't take a lot of positives out of this. Well, I can't personally, and I think it's just we need to accept now going forward. Of course, we want better performances, but if we're in the Champions League, we're probably going to get a few doings, unfortunately. It just is what it is until we're in this competition for a sustained period of time.
Yeah, it's the nature of the beast, I suppose, isn't it? Look, I've just noticed a wee comment there from Pete Lawrence coming in. It says the only positive last night was Lundstrom getting a rest through suspension, so I suppose there is that. Right, look,
that's not bad, actually. That's not a bad. I didn't really think of that, but you're right. It'll be fresh this weekend, fire and ready to go. So yeah, I agree with Pete.
It's shocking we never mentioned it in the pod yesterday. We need to do better going forward. But look, last thing about the Champions League. Before we kind of move on from here, and I don't think I'll be talking about the Champions League at all for on this podcast for the rest of the season. But Ben, it's a really simple question. Round about me last night when we were leaving the ground, I heard a lot of people saying that they would not take us in the Champions League next year. What's your thoughts on it? Would you have us in there, yes or no?
Yes, I would. And I'll quickly give you two reasons. First one is that people say that the board has a lack of ambition. Now, if we as fans say that we don't want to be in the Champions League, then we're showing a lack of ambition, so can't complain about a lack of ambition. Second one would be that I don't think I don't think we'll get a group like that every year that we're in it. That's a tough group. That's three giants, three big quality teams. So there's a possibility you could get. Now, I don't expect us to be qualifying from a group, but we could get a weaker third team and have a chance of getting into the Europa League.
Yeah, and Ross, same question to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with Ben there. I think there's always a chance when you've got a team that come in that kind of third team. So, yeah, I think that's a positive way of looking at it, to be honest. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think we've got to be going into the Champions League next year, as you said, Ben. If we're an ambitious club, we want. One of the 8 stars in the Champions League logos is we've got to be there, don't we? But look, that's it. Champions League done and dusted. Let's look at something more positive here and how the bloody hell we cope until January. So, Ross, I'll stick with you in this one here. We have 7 games until the end. I was going to say the end of the season, but it's until January the 2nd, I think it is. Obviously, we've got a World Cup in between. What's the plan forward? What do you think the board and what do you think Gio's thinking at the moment? Is it a case of go to the next 3 games and see where we are at the World Cup and reassess, or I'm hoping we are already planning for January. I think we've got St Johnstone away, Hearts at home, and St Mirren away, and then it's the World Cup. What should Rangers be doing, Ross?
Well, I think I've already heard Van Bronckhorst say that they're not planning any signings in January until they have a good understanding of who's going to be back fit. So they've not really thought about bringing anyone in, and they'll do that if it's required. So I think when you said there, I don't think they will be planning any signings as it stands because of the amount of injuries that are out. But as fans, I think it's realistic to expect a couple of players to come in January. I think we definitely need a number 8 in midfield. I know we need a right winger as well, but I just think he'll go with Sakala and a Scott Wright or a Matondo until the end of the season. But a number 8, someone that can help us in there. As for the kind of attitude towards these games and getting through January, or getting to January, should I say? Sorry, I think you're going to treat it in 2 blocks here, aren't you? You're going to try and get through the next 3 games, I believe, before the World Cup break, and just give everything we've got, because obviously this team is depleted. We can't deny that. It's not a factor I like to use when judging the manager, because I still think he has a squad strong enough to win the vast majority of domestic games. So I can't use that as a reason to protect him. But I think we've just got to try and get through with everything we've got, get this World Cup break, and everyone just needs to sit back and assess. And depending on the results of these games will depend on whether the manager keeps his job, because it's maybe not correct to talk about this at the moment, but it is the ideal time to make a change, because the season is so split this year, and whoever comes in would have, a pre-season essentially. But it's maybe not good to go into that at this point, because he still is the manager. So, listen, we just have to treat this like a wee mini block, try and get through the next run of fixtures, and keep the gap as it is, because I don't think Celtic will drop any points get up to the World Cup. They just look pretty solid right now domestically. So we just need to keep within touch and distance, get our players back, coming back for, I think it's the 23rd, the first game back after the World Cup break. So that's the plan for me, and hopefully that's the plan for the board and the management. Just get through and come back rearing to go for the second half of this season.
Yeah, that's it. Ben, I'm keen to get your thoughts on this as well. I've got a couple of comments coming in here. RFC72 says, we're going to hear the injured players coming back are like new signings, which is pathetic. I think that is certainly something that we can expect. And as Ross alluded to, it's already, been started to put in the works. And Pete Lawrence has a wee comment saying that Kamara has to be sold, surely. First of all, I'd like to get your thoughts on those 2 comments from our viewers, and what do you think the plan is up until January as well?
Yeah, I think I like Kamara, if I'm honest. I think he gives us something. When on his game, I realise that he hasn't been great lately, but when on his game, I think he gives us something that other midfielders don't at this minute in time. And he is, he's relatively available for games, which is something we need right now. So I wouldn't necessarily be moving him on unless A, the player wants to, and B, it's with a view to bringing in someone that is a starter that replaces him. What I feel that we need to do is, I agree with Ross. I feel like we need to get through these next 3 games. I think if we don't take 9 points from them, I think we need to make the change during the World Cup. Again, it's a perfect time to do so. What I think is, I agree. I heard Gio saying about the the injuries coming in, basically saying they're new signings, and I don't like that attitude. I think, but I have a feeling that the club are aware we need to sign, because I think if you add all those injured players into our squad, I still don't think our squad is good enough to win the league. I really honestly don't. So I feel like we still need to sign 3 players in January. Right winger, centre midfield being the most important, and a centre forward. Just to give, obviously Cholak's been brilliant, but just to give that, because Roof's not going to be available, is he? So we need a third one that can be called upon, because you're not knowing what you're going to get from Morelos at this point in time. So it's about just getting through. It's about the blocks, just like Ross said. It's about getting through this first block, getting 9 points, and then looking at it, coming up to the derby, and making sure. I mean, I think that will impact as well the long term, whether Gio sees out the season or not. If he takes a defeat in that one, I think he could be in trouble.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're 100% right on that there. And just to chuck in a wee grenade, I think we should be looking at goalkeepers in January as well. So I think that would be 3 or 4. But anyway, we'll look and we'll see what happens. I'm not holding my breath at this moment in time. Look, it's just the last kind of point to talk about. I know. In our group chat especially, there was a lot of discussion about it on a lot of the socials. There was a lot of discussion about it as well. I'll come to you in this first, Ross, but it looks like December is going to be, as it always is, a hugely important month. But the Rangers AGM, which has been announced for sort of early December, I don't think there's any official date on that yet. I think 2 things that will be particularly high on the agenda will be the fact that we were amongst the highest in Europe to charge for our Champions League tickets, 160 quid. So I think I saw somebody worked it out, was that it was £82.50 per Rangers goal that they saw, which is depressing when you put it like that. And the other thing, which I think will be high on the agenda, is squad investment. I know I kind of mentioned to you before about this, Ross, but say you're at the AGM, your hands up and you get picked, and keep it broadcastable, please. But if you could ask the board any question, what would you like to have asked the board?
Yeah, I think for me it would have to get a better understanding of why there wasn't, I would say, significant investment this summer, especially with the money that we have made, within that kind of 2 transfer markets. We've sold Patterson, like I said, Aribo, Bassi. We made money from the Gerrard move as well. So we have what's perceived a lot of money available, or we've made a lot of money. I would like to get a real, and I'm sure, don't get me wrong, with the AGM, I'm sure they would go through all of this, but that would be my main question. I'd like to know the real breakdown of where that money's gone, because I think we're now at that stage where it's important that we get that transparency, because there's a real disconnect, I feel, at the moment between the club and the fans, and that is not good. It's not good. There's a lot of people and I spoke to a few people last night that didn't want to be at that game last night, and that's not healthy. You don't want to support that, regardless of the result not meaning anything really in the grand scheme of things. You still want to go there and support your team and feel that they could do something on the night. Lots of people I spoke to didn't want to be there. So, and that comes with frustration with the management and frustration with the board. So yeah, my question I would have to know and get a better understanding of where this money has gone. And if they could, show me that, and they could show me the plan of maybe where things are going to progress, I could maybe sit back and accept it. But right now, I think alongside a lot of other fans, it's difficult to swallow. It's, it's hard to really comprehend where that money's gone, and it's just really disappointing. So yeah, that would be my question.
Yeah, Ben, I hope Ross hasn't stolen your thunder there with that one, but other than directly asking Ross Wilson why are you still here, what questions would... Oh no,
that was my question.
I've stolen your thunder then. So what is it particularly about Ross Wilson then? Is it his recruitment strategy that you'd be asking him about?
Yeah, I think I would like Ross's question answered also, but taking aside the fact that we don't have a lot of money, I think the money that he has spent has been wasted on the way that he has spent it. I think even it goes back to a Ramsey signing. Was what was that for basically? It was a failure. He'd rather go after those sort of players that I know we're in a certain market, I do, but that there's the risk injury wise that is a name rather than really addressing what we have needed. I mean, how long have we needed the centre midfielder to come in, the box to box type player? How long have we really needed a right winger? Now, granted, I do realise that he could argue and say that he's brought in Matondo, but Matondo's best work last season was done on the left wing. I feel like the goalkeeper is another situation. Now, I understand that there may be influence of the manager coming in there, but I just feel that Ross Wilson's signings on the whole have just not been good enough. I understand there's the likes of Davis who's getting better, and players may come good and may get better, but I just think I just see him as out of his depth in terms of what he's actually bringing to the table.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. There's a couple of comments coming through as well. We've got Pete Lawrence. He's saying that he would ask the board what the signing process is. And RFC 72, this is quite an interesting one. He'd like to see what the medicals are like to see how we would put up with these things. But look, listen, we've gone on there for about 45 minutes. I think that's been another sort of cathartic dissection of Rangers and some good opinions and thoughts on that there. Obviously, we've got who are we playing at the weekend? St Johnstone away to look forward to. There'll be a normal show on Friday coming out at 7 o'clock with Adam. I'm sure we'll be doing a post-match reaction show. Is it in the Sunday? I'm sure one of you...
Yeah, Sunday, 12.
Sunday, so we will have the 8 o'clock bulletin going out with the normal guys on that, and I'm sure they'll be doing a bit of analysis and on the week in general and the St John's game in particular. Just want to say, I saw a wee comment again from Pete Lawrence. He says, great effort with the channel. Just want to say thanks for that. None of this happens without any of you guys watching at home. We appreciate all the comments and everybody that follows us on all the socials and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that. You guys, what makes us come back to do it. We enjoy interacting with you. We're trying to get better at a pod and as a pod in terms of having discussions, because